Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity Center in Milwaukee on this last day of May and the last Sunday in the month of May in the year 2020. I'm Linda, and I'm one of the board members here, and you can see and hear me because of the efforts of Billy, who's behind the camera, so I'm grateful for his help this morning. This is an extraordinary time on our planet. Lots of powerful energies are swirling about. Worry, fear, love, and lots of power right now. So we're going to begin by stating our statement of faith for unity, which is there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent. And the affirmation for Unity Center: thank you, God, that we have come to this place to release the past, celebrate the present, and embrace the future in love, peace, harmony, and prosperity. And as is our custom, we read the daily word at this point, so I'm inviting Sue Elbert to come and read the daily word.
Good morning. Sunday, May 31st. Love. I am a loving presence to everyone I meet. It has been said that the world needs more love. The truth is that all the love the world could ever need is already present everywhere, because God is love and God is present everywhere. Created in God's image, I am divine love in human expression. I know that love is much more than a positive feeling. Divine love is the energy of oneness itself. As I remain centered in divine love, I know oneness in God with all people, including those who are dear to me and those I have never met. Divine love helps me see good everywhere and in everyone. I look beyond conflict and limitation and find the good that is always mine to discover. Beloved, let us love one another because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. 1 John 4:7.
Thank you, Sue. Our musical guest today is Julie Thompson, and she is being joined by two musicians. On bass is Doug Itzy, and on banjo is Cap Lee. And the first song they're going to do is called Give Light by Magpie, and it was inspired by the civil rights activist Ella Baker.
1, 2, 3. Give light, and the people will find the way. Give light, and the people will find the way. Give light, and the people will find the way. People will find a way, I do believe. Give love, and the people will find a way. Give love, and the people will find a way. Give love, and the people will find a way. People will find a way, I do believe. Teach peace, and the people will find a way. Teach peace, and the people will find a way. Teach peace, and the people will find a way. People will find a way, I do believe. Stand together, and the people will find a way. Stand together, and the people will find a way. Stand together, and the people will find a way. People will find a way, I do believe.
Thank you, Julie and Doug and Cap. That was perfect for this morning. Next, I'm pleased to introduce our guest minister speaker for the day, Reverend Eva Overholt. She is the founder and director of the Creative Mystery Center in Elm Grove, Wisconsin, and for the past 20 years, she has assisted clients using her compassion, commitment, problem-solving skills, and intuitive wisdom. We are so pleased to welcome her today, and the title of her message is Aligning and Anchoring to Your Soul Light.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Billy, and thank you, Julie and team. It's wonderful to be here this morning. Good morning, Unity Center and Facebook visitor friends. Several years ago, my daughter Maggie and I had taken a road trip and had the opportunity to visit Unity Village just outside of Lee Summit near Kansas City, Missouri. And if you've ever been there, you will know firsthand that it's a very beautiful property. I think well over 1,200 acres or something. It's just phenomenal, beautifully landscaped and kept in good order. So I highly recommend visiting that campus, especially now while our travel limitations may be in place for the unforeseen future. So for years, I've really been intrigued by the partnership ministry of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who were really pioneers in the metaphysical studies in this country, and of course, left amazing legacy of their shared life work together. Their progressive and active community-oriented teaching expanded during their lifetime and certainly globally beyond, laying the foundation for the unity movement being a critical ministry at this point in time and in our world as it's in need of sustaining and expanding spiritual connections. So I'm very grateful to be here today and to be with this community of truth seekers. When I was first inspired with the message that I'll be sharing today, at first glance it seemed a bit lofty and far-reaching, and the more that I pondered that, the larger it became. So I finally realized it would be a tall order to fit my message into one title, but I'll give it my best in this time that we have here together today. Since many of you, or most of you, may not know, I tend to talk often about these things and in great detail and depth. I'll begin with some preliminary comments to hopefully set the stage for the points that I intend to share today. First of all, I really believe that we're in the midst of a really historical time of rapid change, constant shifts, and tremendous flux. And if we somehow get past this critical time of great choice, we will be equipped to rethink and rewire our future in a more compassionate and sustainable way. And I end with an if. And on any given day, as we have seen play out certainly over the past several days, full out upheaval and chaos that we're witnessing on a daily basis. Life, as we have recently known it, is now blurred and seemingly unrecognizable. So let me begin with a little bit of wisdom sharing to help others to consider why aligning with the higher self is so critical to how we survive or crumble at any given moment. During this period of rapid adjustments and unthinkable changes, anchoring into a spiritual posture becomes an intense practice to be used as a means and method of supporting our ability to withstand the impact of the rapid need to be constantly shifting to meet new circumstances, new recommendations, new learning curves, management of our resources, support of our health and sustaining our health, and on and on. The forms of change are infinite, some that we share and many more yet are of our individual needs and personal circumstances. Therefore, finding ways to be self-supporting and be equipped to support others is pivotal at this time. Then beyond that, attempting to be as mindful as possible to align with our God source, anchor our aspects of human needs at the physical, emotional, and mental levels. We can then be better positioned to tending to our life circumstances, events, lessons, changing needs, and challenges from a place of higher strivings. In other words, from the gaze of the soul. That is the soul qualities that many of us have been consciously developing over our lifetime, even if we have done so intermittently. We find that the path that is now the one that we deliberately return to for seeking greater sense in our lives and ultimately our destiny. One of my intentions here today is to point to how these things collectively and consciously working together will be useful in supporting our well-being and shift the energetics on all levels as they continue to powerfully move forward at time warping speed. Those that are stuck in the past or resist the future will probably suffer more by being inflexible or nostalgically connected in ways, methods, practices, and beliefs that are no longer serving the shared destiny towards the highest and the best for what we all agree upon as the ideal of oneness. A useful way to relate to this is seen in our seasonal cycles as we move through a calendar year. As seasons change, we make adjustments which assure us greater comfort and well-being. For example, in this climate, as we move into the fall of the year and approach winter time, we begin to wear more layers. And we turn on our heating units and acknowledge the changes and make adjustments to accommodate the shifting conditions. Everyday life choices are like that. We're required to assess what is needed to support our well-being and that of our loved ones, and we need to learn to do certain things to assure that we understand what our choices are and use discernment and reason to then navigate what we must do to provide for our comfort and avoid unnecessarily suffering. My point is that we really have the skill sets to navigate these changes and to make the adjustments. So we don't really need to reinvent ourselves entirely. Rather, as I see it, it's more a condition of evolution and expansion in our capacity to deal with the new and evolving conditions that are impacting us so often and adversely. I'm convinced that flexibility is the key in this now moment and for the foreseeable future. The more resistance that we have, the more anxiety and suffering that we tend to create for ourselves and collectively. Not everyone is built to simply go with the flow and able to quickly adjust and figure out new ways of being. This is even more the reason to systematically, if necessary, practice ways of feeling connected to your divine self. Taking breaks from the media news cycles and spending time together with people that you love and doing things that bring you peace. As a spiritual practice, what many teachers will often suggest things like meditation and yoga, mindfulness, devotional studies, and such to use as tools to be more grounded, to feel a greater balance, to be less susceptible to the instability of the adverse energies and negativity from the collective streams of discordant thought forms and verbal attacks. For some, this is needed at a primal level and absolutely necessary so as to not be swept away in disparity, depression, darkness, hopelessness, and apathy. It's entirely an inside job. I repeat, it's entirely an inside job, meaning that it's not something that one needs to develop from the point of anything other than their connection to their inner wisdom and higher self. Not in a selfish manner or disregard for others, but from a place of self-mastery and self-realization, I offer here the echoes of my childhood teachings, where we were taught that the Lord helps those that help themselves, meaning that Jesus taught us that we were meant to be empowered beings, supported by our Heavenly Father in a beautiful, loving, divine universe. Yet we are required to do our part, to be in action in tending to our own self-preservation, self-care, personal well-being, rather than leaving it to others to do that for us. This, of course, is done foundationally to be healthy and to be well, and to be engaged in our lives in a way that will bring us joy and fulfillment over time. And yet, more importantly, service to others so that we can be available to others who are in need, and that they will then learn these things for themselves and likely to be passing it on to others to become more self-sufficient and in service to the whole. Creating a world of unity and collaborations as we move more deeply into the Aquarian age of more consciously supporting one another and moving from self-serving actions regardless of human or planetary consequences. Again, if we take the ideal of aligning and anchoring to their soul light, we can begin with a literal application of using this concept as a tool of preservation. If we are optimizing our choices in support of this path, we'll find many and unforeseen rewards. We'll be less likely to be disappointed in things that other people do. We'll find fewer reasons to question the choices that people make, or worst yet, find ourselves judging the actions of others to be wrong. And when we often know that there's very little or nothing that we know about them, let alone what their accumulated life experiences have been, that has formed their choices. When we experience our lives from a place of being accountable for our actions and attempt to be considerate to one another in the choices we make, we're automatically practicing alignment to our soul and deepening our relationship to greater soul expressions outpictured in our world as a matched vibration. I often find that somehow people resist the simplicity of these practices and overcomplicate the ease with which Spirit invites us to be peaceful and peace-filled. Frequently, I see there is resistance to the act of letting go, even temporarily, to allow for a shift or for change to occur. Fearing instead the upheaval aspects and focusing on the discomfort and the unknowns that change will most certainly bring. Often I find that some are just too comfortable or constitutionally unwilling to consider change at any point of what appears to be unreasonable or no longer sustainable. Sometimes it seems there is resistance to allowing for change from a higher perspective so as not to appear weak or inferior. A great majority of people I tag as fear impaired, held back in their actions by fear and or fear of what change might bring. So consumed with anxiety and fear that they're unable to find a way to calm the fear and to find safe harbor within, and often turn to substance abuse, compulsory addictions. They live in denial or operate from various stages of anger and projection, rather than take responsibility for personal behaviors as a cause for the disconnect or disorientation, deteriorating circumstances, mishap after mishap, conveniently blamed on something or someone else, versus the personal empowerment path of striving to align with your soul and live from a soul perspective and apply soul-based choices to your everyday events and opportunities, and ultimately convert perceived hardships into valuable life lessons. So as we move ahead and we are gifted with ever more chances at creating a happy life, opportunities to minimize our regrets and avoid painful mistakes, once again, I stress the likelihood of manifesting these conditions directly involves our participation in that co-creation, meaning that for most of us, good things don't just usually show up at our doorstep. Darn it. At least on a continuous basis. Life frequently inserts lessons and opportunities for us to apply to our accumulated wisdom and access our ability to apply right action to our circumstances. And right action, as I see it, is applicable in each and every encounter, circumstance, and on each occasion. For the most part, it seems to me to be increasingly evident that it's in our close personal relationships is when our lessons and tests appear. How do we relate to our loved ones and those that mean the most to us? If we have shaky and broken relationships, first taking note that we are the common denominator and how that looks is a necessary observation to make. Perhaps painful and not pretty to look at, but yes, it is necessary. If life continues to pour us with trials and tribulations and reoccurring patterns of lessons returned, from a soul perspective, it is for our advancement in repeated nudging. It is for us to consider using practices of personal choice for higher values and soul alignment. It's to soften the impact and to allow us to observe and integrate our lives from a point of being anchored within and aligned with our Creator, rather than constantly being swept away by experiences of hardship, dismay, and constant disappointments. Now, for the most part, that's well and good, but I like to focus on practical and pragmatic ways to apply spiritual grace to our daily and devotional lives so that we can move beyond the chaos to a better position ourselves to greater service to one another, to our brothers and sisters, our families, our children, our partners, our grandchildren, co-workers, our leaders, and causes that are near and dear to our hearts. And yet, to do so requires us to move beyond the mundane, the illusions and distractions towards that greater end. This is the place at which we must now renew our commitment to our spiritual development, to our daily practice, which is our chosen journey to greater soul-based alignment. This is the juncture we must recognize and remember that we have been called to a greater service. Yes, we must deal with the mundane, the drudgery and the ordinary, and the pain that is playing out in the world, and the sometimes shameful aspects of our humanness, while simultaneously being mindful and beginning to manage the dire circumstances of our human and planetary conditions at this moment in our earthly experience. So yes, it's true that at this very moment is an extremely rough time to be on this planet. It is not for those that are faint of heart or resistant to change or prefer to not be personally accountable in any number of ways or on any number of levels. This shift is happening with or without our collaboration. And I'm here to say I truly believe it will be easier on many levels the more we can consciously participate to the unfoldment by doing our part to align ourselves and anchor our energy with focused perspective of being soul expressed in our actions and choices. From a consultant's perspective, I recommend symbolically starting to look in the mirror by taking an inventory of your personal life circumstances in this now moment. Begin where you are, or where you think it'll be the easiest for you, but be willing to be painfully honest in your reflections. Some Areas to initially take a fresh look at often include, however, certainly aren't limited to, may I suggest here, in your closest personal relationships, in your marriage, in your relationship with your children, in your friendships, in your use of your creative talents, in your career and work life, in your self-care habits and routines, and passionate, more accepting, more forgiving, and more loving. In your self-care habits. And though this effort and initiative, we become focused on our own inner shiftings and expression and expansion of our view of the world from a love and compassionate place. And the results then becomes our unique gift of alignment, anchoring of our soul expression, and radiant light that is generously gifted to others in need and graciously granted back to us as a reflection. Amen. So as we now take these words and begin to assimilate them into our greater understanding and application, I invite you to gently move your focus inward as we call on divine support for our systems. With a focus on your breath, begin to bring your awareness to the miracle of this precious gift. Let us momentarily pause as we consciously experience the shared function that our breath allows. From the pranic life force it transports as it restores our vitality and vigor, for the ability to synergize with our bodily processes to optimize, energize, and support our well-being. As we now call forth Divine Spirit for our support and upliftment, together we surrender into this sacred now moment and allow our physical bodies to let go as we continue to observe our breath. Its rhythm, its expansiveness, its powerful ability to heal, nurture, and soothe us into comfort and ease. Continue to soften and relax and allow for relaxation to expand in your physical body, setting aside any tension or pain sensations. Become aware of your muscles, bones, your vital organs, the multiple systemic functions, joints, tendons, ligaments, our neurological functions, our cognitive functions and self-healing abilities, and all the things that our bodies offer to us down to a cellular level. Take a moment to give thanks for a lifetime of functions that our loyal companions provide for us. By using silent, inner affirming messages, declare that your physical being is in divine and perfect order, and allow yourself to commit more deeply to the sacred relationship of this shared alignment. Renewing your vows to be more compassionate and considerate in the manner of how you support your sacred vessel of being through the actions of your choices and self-care. I now invite you to shift to your emotional body, allowing for peace to enter into your emotional responses and experiences, to pursue mastery of your emotional responses rather than evoke unnecessary wear and tear. Aligning, decompressing accumulated trauma, both major and minor, leveling, symbolically and literally adjusting to equalize your emotional field of response and reaction. And focusing again on your breath to assist with this conscious realignment of your emotional field. Gently moving now more deepness into the awareness of your intuition, the evolved sense of your sacred site, that which communicates and invites greater union with your mind and pairs with your expansion of greater consciousness through your thoughts and your intellectual engagements. Here is where you can be the observer of the thought forms that you create and release into expression of words and tangible energetics. Imagine for a moment that your ajna center connects to a brilliant light form of great radiance, healing, and beauty. And from the light, it brings to your mind's eye wisdom and clarity. As you fix your gaze with laser intention, you somehow recognize and sense that this light is a gentle energy that creates a scintillating effect upon your being. An emergence of light streaming forth in perfect resonance with your soul. You might physically connect through your hands, your fingers, your ajna center, a noticeable pineal activation, or a crown center softening. You sense that you have the ability to receive and maintain connection to this radiant frequency, bringing into your aura a sense of illumination and increased vitality. You feel an upliftment and a shift, even if subtle, in your vibrational awareness. Begin to imagine using this light with the symbol of a lighthouse. The noble function of a lighthouse is to assure safety as it's sending infused beams with intensity into the dark night, or here imagined as our unconscious, unenlightened aspects of self. Allow this light to be the observer of your thoughts, the monitor of what you're thinking, the things that you imagine and entertain at any given moment with the field of your beautiful mind. Fully claim your sacred role and spiritual responsibility as the light keeper of your soul. Begin now to move deeply and invite your breath to expand and anchor this light within. Allow the light to continue to heal your limited thinking and return you towards your innocence. Allow for your thoughts to shift, neutralize, and become less polarized and overly charged. Imagine your thoughts as powerful lights energized and literally forms of illumination and radiance. And again, become aware of your breath. Imagine that you are thoroughly aligned with the brilliant vibration and radiance of the infinite divine. Allow for this to fill you with unbounded grace and increase good kind. As I become quiet, please take a moment to review your journey of this precious and angelic support, and notice the sensations in your physical, emotional, and mental bodies are now anchored and aligned more deeply with your inner peace. And before fully returning to the awareness of our immediate environment, please take a moment to join me in extending our collective elevation of peace and illumination towards our current earthly circumstances, directing our lighthouse rays towards the causes of racial injustices and the needless violent ideations of harm, political polarity, environmental transgressions, and the many discordant conditions our planet and society are currently facing. Together we can humbly contribute our parts through our talents, thoughts, actions, and everyday deeds. I implore you to do your part to contribute to this shifting world into greater harmony and peaceful collaboration as you align and anchor your soul light towards contributing your sacred and vital part. And so it is.
Thank you, Eva. I feel the quietness in my heart and in this room, and I hope that we can extend it all out to our planet. Thank you so much. This is our time where we do our offering and our offering prayer. So I'm back. I'm going to just take this envelope and just acknowledge and ask that all of you do this with me, our statement of abundance, that there is no lack or limitation. Freely I give and freely I receive from God's abundance. Unity Center is blessed in receiving, and I am blessed in giving, and so it is. And we'll talk a little bit later about the ways that you can do that. But we would like to hear from Julie and her singing crew again. And so this time she's going to perform a song by Bill Staines called Faith of Man.
1, 2, 3. One day a babe was born along the highway, tiny helpless thing upon the sand, and an Okie with a dream start to show. Now the farmer sees the fields around him ripen and whispers something low beneath his breath. Perhaps a little prayer to help the growing. Perhaps a word of thanks for all the rest. Trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. You can trust the sun to shine upon the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you see the rest with a quiet faith of man. There's a storm-tossed ship tonight out on the water. There's a soul that sails alone out on the blue. There's a dreamer with her eyes upon the heavens. They're all looking for a way to make it through. You can trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. You can trust the sun to shine upon the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you see the rest with a quiet faith of man. You can trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. You can trust the sun to shine upon the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you see the rest with the quiet faith of man.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for everyone who was with us today, either out there in the vapors, and know that you can view this on our website, unitycenterinmilwaukee.com, and there's also more information there about primary unity teachings. And then a quick reminder, if you want to make a donation, there's also instructions on the website for us. We are reopening on June 28th, where we will physically be present, and there will be more information about that as the date comes closer. Remember to be kind to yourself and others today and every day of the week. And I would like to close by us saying the prayer for protection. So, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and so it is. Thank you all, and we'll have one more piece of music.
away.